So what are the books you've read, read some of or would like to talk about? I've got your list here if you need a reminder. I
No, I wrote them down too. I mean, I like you were saying, Eric. I most of what I read, if not all of what I read, especially these days, are music-related books.
right.
And like you, I feel similarly about documentaries. I could watch any rock doc about any band. It doesn't even have to be someone I like, just because all of them are interesting. You
Just
know what
saw
I
the
mean?
one on Wham on Netflix.
Yes,
Not
that
that
is
I
so
hate
good
Wham. I
too.
mean, I like their
No,
music, but I'm not.
right. Exactly.
I don't have
But
Wham
that
posters on my
documentary
wall.
is great. Yeah,
Yeah.
that documentary is great.
And
And
by the
so
way, had their manager on this podcast because he's a prolific writer.
Napier Bell,
Yeah.
Simon Napier Bell.
Simon
That's
Napier
so
Bell,
funny.
fantastic guy, wants to come back on again. Great stories, talking about when he
Really?
managed the Yardbirds and how he went to New York City. And, one of the guys that were running one of the labels there was like, had mob ties, and
Yes.
he's got some artists up against the wall. You make a fucking hit for me or you're fucking dead, that kind of stuff. Those stories. It was fantastic. Next one is an interesting one.
Which one do you have next on your list?
Based on the life of Marvin Gaye, Divided
Okay.
Soul.
Yeah, okay. So this is written by David Ritz, who's a fairly well-known author, writes a lot of, I think he's written a book on Aretha Franklin. I think a lot of his stuff is focused on soul music. And he wrote this book on Marvin Gaye. Probably, I think it's the only or the definitive one that's out there. And you just come away realizing, oh, what a troubled, complicated, mostly unsavory person that Marvin Gaye was. It's this conflict. It's the age-old question of the art versus the artist. And I mean, Marvin Gaye created one of the greatest pieces of art with the What's Going On album that has ever created. And it's social justice and it's spirituality and it's all the things that really matter in this world are bottled up in this perfect album. And yet his life is a mess
Well, I
with,
know about his father. That
yes,
was
his
a well
father killed him
documented story.
and his dad was a preacher and had a very unique and militant view of Christianity and of religion. And so Marvin grew up with both sides just at war within him constantly. We would probably call him now a sex addict, but because of his religious upbringing, it wasn't just sex. Sex had a very spiritual, it was almost a sacrament. It was like a religious ritual to him. And so and he was just overwhelmed with drugs for decades and wasting, he'd make a ton of money on sexual healing, a big comeback, and he'd waste it all on drugs, or he'd
Wow.
loan it to somebody and never give it back or whatever. And he just messed his life up. And the the this black and white counterbalance of the good and evil in an artist or in all of us, in him, they were constantly at war, constantly. And the bad guy, the devil, won out more often, I think, than the saint, than the angel.
Mm.
And it's just a shame.